So my name is Talvitie, and I'm from Finnish Environment Institute, working with microplastic at the urban stormwater runoffs. It's my pleasure to be here today. So how would I describe my topic is that I look mainly for sources and pathways for microplastic to the environment, to the aquatic environment. And why it is important is that those are the places where we can actually do something about the issue, microplastic pollution. We can either try to remove the sources or remove microplastic pollution when they are in the pathways, like in a wastewater, or in some cases in stormwaters. Today, we are focusing mainly on stormwaters, but very significant pathways are also wastewater treatments, municipal wastewater treatments, and industrial wastewaters. We know very little about the stormwaters as a pathway. It's pretty challenging environment to look for microplastics. But it is very significant place to look because although we don't exactly know, but we have a good educated guess that it's very significant pathway. Large amounts of untreated stormwaters, particularly in urban environment, discharge all kinds of dirt from urban environments to the aquatic environment. In the future, due to the urbanization, bigger cities constantly, and climate change, the role is only getting bigger. It is also a very meaningful place to watch microplastic pollution because with stormwater management, we can probably manage also microplastic pollution discharges. Maybe already we do with some stormwater management, or then we can develop some new ideas how to manage it even better. I will now shortly tell you about my study that I did in Espoo in Finland. It's the second largest city in Finland, and I studied the catchment area in urban suburb. The type of catchment area is pretty important to know because it definitely affects the quality of the stormwaters and amount of microplastics. Suburb, which around 50% of was impervious surfaces like roofs and roads. When I started the study, I had to put a lot of effort on thinking how I will sample microplastics in stormwaters. We have already some ideas how to sample stormwaters, how to study the quality of stormwater. But with microplastics, it's still a bit trickier because as other researchers before me here today mentioned, the size classes is quite wide. There are different kinds of plastics. How I would grab all of them for my samples, or do I even try to grab all the size classes? So I started to think that I need quite large volumes because not necessarily all stormwaters include so much microplastics, and bigger plastics are more rare, most probably. So I would need to have enough volume. What would be the sufficient sample volume? I wasn't sure. I had to check. I was starting to look from the wastewaters where they usually used 1 cubic meter. So that was a start. Stormwater is like an event with fluctuating flow. It's not flowing like in a constant flow. So I was thinking that if I want to actually take a representative sample, I would need to take flow changes into account. And of course, I would want to have some kind of a mean concentrations, like maybe from the whole rain event, and sample enough from the one catchment area so that I would get an idea of mean concentrations. I'm not going into details with this machine here, but I developed with the help of my friends this large volume, flow-based large volume sampling device. So basically it measures with the V patch, it measures the flow constantly, and the flow meter tells it to the computer, and the computer tells it to my pump to take samples to my filters flow proportionally during the whole rain event. So the idea is that I sample the whole rain event from the start to the end flow proportionally. I will show what kind of a figure I get. So the upper picture here shows the actual rain event. It starts and then it rains like very heavily for a while, and then it calms down, but the flow is still, the stormwater is still running. And the picture down just tells how the pump mimics the actual rain event. And I know in the end how much from the whole rain event I got from my sample flow proportionally. It's not all about sampling. As mentioned in earlier presentations, samples need quite much work after sampling. We have to extract microplastics from the samples. We need to analyze it. And after the analysis, we have to also understand what the analysis tells us. And we need good quality control samples so that we can prove that we do the work with good quality, so that we don't contaminate all samples or lose the particles there. This is just a picture of showing how the stormwater sample look in the first place. It's rinsed from the filter into this glass beaker, and it's very dirty. It includes everything, sand, a lot of biological materials, and also a lot of plastic. But it goes through the digestion methods and it gets more pure. And after that, we will put it to the FTIR. And after the FTIR, we hope to also use pyrolysis method to maybe get some information from the rubber tire, but this is in the future, hopefully. My preliminary results showed pretty much what I expected. It shows that even though I sample from the same catchment area, the variation with microplastic discharges is quite huge. So it depends, of course, dry period before the rain, how dirty are the roads. But it also depends on what kind of a rain event. Is it very harsh rain lasting for a long time, or is it just a short, small rain? And here you can look, I put 3 different rain events here. And if you look at how much they discharge, so the most discharge comes from the, sorry, very, very large, like very heavy rain event. It's raining a lot. There's a lot of stormwater. The concentration is not necessarily so high, but the end result is that it discharges over 1 million microplastics during the rain event. But also smaller rain events can, if the concentration is high, like in the first rain event, it can be quite significant discharge of microplastics. There wasn't surprises of the most common plastics type found, like almost all studies. So polypropylene and polyethylene are the plastics that we use a lot in our society. So we see that also in stormwaters. I also give some preliminary results from master's thesis of my student, former student Pietu Pankkonen. And this is just to show that stormwaters are a quite nice place to look at the microplastic pollution, because it hints that we can do something about it. Like I mentioned, we already manage stormwaters in many ways. And this was one type of way of managing stormwaters and improving the quality. This kind of a filtration system was developed for removing microplastics, but also improving the quality of the stormwater in general. This filtration system is targeted to like city centers where there is not a lot of space. So this filtration system can be like a sun deck on a shore, or it can be a fence, or it can be many other item or activity as well. But inside of it, there's a filtration system, and two different filter material were studied: sand and biochar. And if you don't remember anything else from this picture, you can look that before this filtration system, there's a lot of microplastics per liter. So it's quite dirty urban stormwater. It has a huge variation, from 8 to 66, again, depending on dry periods before taking the samples, depending on the rain event, how long and harsh it is. But no matter how the rain event was, it significantly removed microplastics from stormwater. This was installed next to road, very high traffic road, and the idea was that this would also stop from microplastics from traffic to ending up in the Gulf of Finland. A lot of people have contributed this study so far, and I want to say thank you for all of those. Thank you.
And thank you for keeping well within time. We actually do have time for questions of Julia. Julia, has anybody got anything they would like to ask? Tarmo. Oh, sorry, I don't know how this works.
You showed that some simple filters like sand are very effective in removing microplastics. How long this capacity is persisting?
This was quite pilot scale, but it is very significant. It's a very good question. It's very significant that it doesn't need constant purification or maintenance, because these would be quite expensive to maintain. I don't know exactly, but not like often, maybe years working and without the maintenance. But definitely, I think this type of a filter is applicable in places where there is like high levels of microplastic pollution or high levels of other pollution. So I wouldn't put this like next to a forest or fields, but maybe in city center, this can be like targeted to like this kind of a hotspots areas.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks very much, Julia.